Hi, this is David Williams. I am with Wendy Coulter of Hummingbird Creative Group. How are you doing this morning, Wendy?
I'm great. Hey, David, so good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. It's good to see you as well. And although you've got backlight behind you, it is working out well. I can see you crystal clear. So I'm glad that we were able, because you don't know. I remember you and I talked about like the Zoom backgrounds, and sometimes they can be a little overly funky, especially if you're animated like you and I are using hands and things like that. But what I'm going to do briefly, Wendy, is just have you. Um, Say for just a moment about who you are and what you do. And then at the very end, I'll give you more of an opportunity to give your website, how to find you on social media. So dive in with a little brief history of who you are and what you do, and then we'll get started.
Sure. So my name's Wendy Coulter. I'm CEO and founder of Hummingbird Creative Group. And as CEO and founder, I wear a lot of hats here. One of those hats is new business development. I work a lot with our clients directly as well. And I absolutely love coming up with exciting new ideas for their marketing programs. And so our process has to do with differentiation. And we love to help clients find their true differentiation and communicate that to the marketplace through whatever media and outlets they need to. So that kind of depends on a customized plan. But there's always a big idea, and that's what I love. I'm an ideator, and I absolutely thrive on helping customers come up with a big idea that they can be excited about taking to market.
Well, I appreciate that brief intro there, and people obviously at the end will be able to check you out through your website. Plus, I'll have a link in the description on the podcast and the YouTube video. But what I want to have you talk about today, obviously, this is your 25th year anniversary.
Yes.
And so that's a big milestone, obviously, a quarter century, right?
Oh
So,
gosh. Wow. You just brought that one home.
right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
now your next one is a half century, right? So,
Well, I guess if I say I started my business when I was 24, then everyone learns the woman's age on this program. That's great. But yeah, so I started Hummingbird when I was 24 years old. It's 25 years later, and we're still at it. It's super exciting to see what happens over 25 years in a business. And there's ups and downs, and it's been amazing. And that was really, kind of what I wanted to talk about today is what I've learned over those 25 years, the good and the bad, and mainly the good. I mean, it's just amazing to be in business for this amount of time. This year, I came up with a mantra for Hummingbird for our 25th year anniversary, and it's reflect, restore, take flight. And it has to do with reflecting on 25 years. And we have been, looking back at old work. And it's so funny how even like the processes of design have changed. The tools available to us have changed so much. And then just the people that I've come across over the years, many of whom I still talk to, like you. What did we meet, like
it was 2004.
14 years ago? Oh, wow.
2004, 16
15
years
years ago,
ago. So
right?
you weren't even double digit in business at that point.
Right. And so many amazing people that I've met over the years. I am currently on the board of the Cary Chamber of Commerce, and the Cary Chamber is where I started. I walked into a chamber meeting because I didn't have work. I was looking for a job. I walked into a chamber meeting. I wandered around. I met three amazing men. Mike Anderson with Advent Screen Printing, Michael Curran with Greenscape and Franklin Hill Farms, and Kim Passfield with Carolina Job Finder. And those three guys helped me and gave me work, and I got my business started. And I was in an industry I had not worked in before. I still am. So I really didn't have a big background in the industry that I'm in when I started my business. I had no idea what I was doing with business. My father owned a shoe store, and I was working in the shoe store when I was 4 years old. And I was riding a elephant as a promotion for the shoe store probably when I was 6 years old. And so I had a little touch of marketing there. So I have a sales and marketing background, but I hadn't worked in it. And I didn't have a business background. Even though Dad ran a business, I did not understand finance. I did not understand what I needed to do to really run a business. And so it's been quite a time of reflection. Just to think about all the things that I've learned is amazing. To think about the tough times that I've been through is amazing. You had Martin Brossman on a couple of shows ago, and Martin and I think he introduced us, right?
That's
he's a
correct.
great friend to both of us. And Martin's, talked about life being a roller coaster. And I remember, I don't know what year it was. It was probably like 2002, 2003. I was at a networking event. It was a NABO networking event. That's the National Association of Women Business Owners, which I'm on the board of that organization. And I've been in it for 25 years, and it's an amazing organization. And this year it was Christmas time, and I walked into a party, and there was a woman there who was sitting next to me on the couch, who I highly, highly admire. Her name's Darlene Johns, and she's another long time woman business owner who I've known since I started my business. And she said, "Well, how are you doing, Wendy?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, running a business is like a roller coaster." And I remember a woman who's in my industry just jumping all over me and was like, "Oh, you don't say that. You need to put up a better front than that everything is wonderful. And you don't ever admit that you're having problems in public." And you know what, David, like I had a moment right then and there when I realized that I'm transparent and that's who I am. And you can't pretend like everything's always going to be perfect, because it's not. And if you're telling people that, then you're kind of tricking yourself, and you might not really have the right outlook on life. And, so as I reflect on 25 years, the adversities are there. I mean, when I started the business, I had nothing. I was 24 years old. I couldn't even afford to buy a meal. I mean, I was straight out of college. I'd had a job for a little over a year that didn't work out well for me. And I walked away from it. And, I went to a chamber event because I needed lunch that day. And it turned out it was a great expo, and I met some great people, and they really helped me. But that was the reality of it, and I've been through, in 2001, it was really, really a tough time. And I got to a place where the word bankruptcy entered, the conversations with my family, and I had to make some really tough decisions. I had a champion. I had an advocate that I met in 2001. And I was really just like at a really, really low place. And he was just amazing. He was a CPA. He helped me look at my finances. He helped me learn things that I really needed to learn to run a good business. I learned how to look at the balance sheet and understand what the banks were looking for. I learned what P&L meant to my cash flow. I think so many business owners never learn that. They never learn how to look at their finances and really be able to predict cash flow. And I was taught that, and I was taught that at a time that I was, when you're in your 20s, a 6-digit mountain of debt seems really big. I'd never owned a house before. I'd never had that kind of debt in my world. And it was really scary. And one like super proud moment for me was by the end of 2002, I had paid down all the debt. And it really was from, the grace of meeting this CPA who helped me put together a plan. Didn't charge me for it, was an advocate for me, just was there to help. And that was amazing. Again, in 2008, so I I had my daughter in August of 2008. In 2007, I got approved for a loan to buy an office condo, and I bought real estate that year. It was an amazing year. In 2008, I was pregnant. I had my daughter. 3 weeks later, I came back and had to do layoffs. And, it's up and down and up and down. And when we say roller coaster, I mean, the roller coaster ride, it can happen fast in business. My husband says the only reason I have survived in business is because I'm just I've got a lot of grit. I won't give up. I persevere. I won't give up. I think I thrive on it in some ways. I think Martin mentioned that, the roller coaster ride is fun. And it is fun, but it can really get you down. And you have to, keep that positive mindset at all times, because whether it is financial times that are hard, or whether it's having issues with employees, which I can tell a million stories. I can talk about employees that have thrown chairs across the room. I can talk about employees who have stalked me at the park and, tried to chase me down. I can talk about the wonderful employees who have come back multiple times. It's all a roller coaster. It's all positives and negatives. It's about that. It's about that balance of life that really isn't a balance. It's up and down and ebbs and flows. I mean, as I reflect, that's what I think about. And it's amazing to get through it and learn from it and come to the top, come to the bottom of the roller coaster and start back up, and having to change. I think embracing change is such a big part of success in business. And I would say the fact that, I enjoy the change and I embrace the change, and I learn from the change each time so that I can do it all over again. That's been super, super amazing. So those are my reflections over 25 years. And those stories can run really deep and really long. But I think at the end of the day, embracing the change and understanding it's okay. I don't have to say everything is great all the time. I might say it's unbelievable. I think you've heard me say that, right? Unbelievable can mean a lot of things.
It can. Unbelievable doesn't. I think most people, the beauty of saying unbelievable is I think most people obviously think positive, right? Oh,
right.
How's your business? Oh, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Well, unbelievable can be at the bottom of that roller coaster ride.
Right.
And I like that. I'm going to have to, I'm going to jot that down on my notes here, because I got to incorporate that in the title of because what I do is I create a title based on the notes that I've taken. So that was a great way to close out that segment. What I'm going to do, Wendy, is you shared a lot of information about the roller coaster ride and up and down. So what I'm going to do now is, rather than pull out several points, as you covered so much stuff, I want you to just give me some final closing thoughts, or for the audience, some final closing thoughts of advice to people out there that are in business, because obviously 25 years, you've got a lot of experience. You shared a lot of things. Hopefully anybody that is listening to this will get the fact that it's going to be a roller coaster ride. And I think anybody, that grit that your husband mentioned, I think for those of us that are small business owners, that is part of what I thrive on. And times are not always good. And so I thrive on those challenges. And you and I have shared confidentially with each other different challenges that we've had in business. And it's nice to have somebody that you can have those confidential conversations with and say, I'm kind of struggling with this, and what are your thoughts? And that's one of the things that we've been able to do over the 16 years that we've known each other. But I love the unbelievable. So I'm going to have to tuck that in my head, so that no matter if I'm at my rock bottom, how's business, it's unbelievable.
Every day is unbelievable. Yeah, so like I said, I came up with this mantra: reflect, restore, take flight. And I think for the points about going forward, I think the restore and take flight are the pieces that, everyone needs to really think about. Restore is about looking at things through a lens and saying, how can I tweak it? What do I need to do that's new? Do I have new ideas that maybe I've tried to get off the ground, but I haven't had time? So when you get a chance to take a breather, these are the times. What are the new ideas, or what are the things you've always wanted to do? How do you rework the things that worked for you before? Sometimes we do things that are amazing and we forget. Like 3 or 4 years later, it's like, wow, remember when we did that? Oh, we need to do that again. We did that this year. Years ago, I did Valentine's, like the heart candy, and I delivered it to customers with a thing about how we love their brand. And I redid that idea this year because it was such a neat idea, and you come up with ideas and you execute them and then you forget about them. And we all need to remember that rituals are really important to people. And so, just like you get up every morning and you get yourself ready and you go do your run or whatever you do in your world, on a regular basis, we need rituals in business too. And so I think a lot of business owners are doing all this stuff and they keep moving and they keep going and they forget, oh, wow, that was amazing. Let me do that again and again and again. And that's part of marketing. That's part of what I do. And so, make that a part of restoring. Think about new ideas and think about how you're going to expand on things that have worked before, and do some strategy and really take some time to think about it and give yourself a purpose in what it is that you're doing. And that way you can take flight. And that's about just doing all those wonderful things that you've created a purpose for in your world. And that will help your business take flight, whether it is understanding your finances more, whether it is that great social media activity of creating a video podcast kind of situation and starting to put content out. Whatever those ideas are that you want to jumpstart, just reflect on them and think about how that needs to work so you have purpose. And that's just something I'm trying to work on personally right now. I've always been known as a very creative person, and there's perceptions around that. There's perceptions that, and I'm also part of Hummingbird, and so I think people think I'm very flighty because I talk fast and I have a lot of ideas and all of that. And so how do we take a step back and say, what is the purpose of what it is that we're doing, and make sure that we communicate that to everyone around us. I think that's super important to growing a business. I think it's super important to people understanding. It's all about great communication. So always being able to explain your purpose and what you do. That's something I'm working on right now. It's been 25 years and I'm in marketing, and I'm still trying to figure out how to communicate really well about how I can help people with strategy, and about what my purpose is in helping people, which is really to build the value of their business. At the end of the day, that's what Hummingbird is there to help them do. And I have to remember to let them know that on a regular basis. And so, I think making sure we hear purpose all the time now. It's a buzzword, what's your why?
Right.
But I think that there's a reason why that's become a buzzword. Is it's super important to know that and to communicate that really well. I always have purpose, but I don't necessarily communicate it well. I think as business owners, we have to learn to do that, because we can be, as the personality types that most business owners are, we're quick starters. We're, with the entrepreneurial spirit, we kind of run with things and we make things happen, but everyone around us doesn't understand why. And so with your team, with your clients, with the general community, with your advocates who love you, making sure that they understand why you do the things that you do really helps cement your reputation, and it just helps you communicate your why. And that's unbelievable.
And this interview has been unbelievable. So so how do you interpret that? So anyway, with a couple things that I'll mention, and then obviously I'll have you close out with your website and things like that. And so you know me well enough. That was just a little fun, saying unbelievable. It has been great having you. We've known each other for a number of years, and you've shared a lot of great things. I want to repeat that mantra you said. You said reflect, restore, and take flight. Is that correct?
That's right.
So I think leaving folks with reflect, restore, take flight, and find your why. And obviously it is kind of a buzzword, and that's been out there for a long time. What's your why? What's your purpose? You know, but it's still critical. Like you said, 25 years in business, you're still, and you obviously operate differently in your 25th year than you did in your first year.
Oh,
And
it's
so,
so different.
right. Yeah. And technology has just changed. And I mean, 25 years. So, um, what I'm going to do now, Wendy, is bring us home with a closeout of giving you the opportunity. I know the guests that I have on here are not trying to sell their business and not trying to sell their services. They're just being a part of what I'm doing and giving some positive thoughts, some hope to the community. And I realize that, but I do want to give you permission to give your website URL to let people know how they can find you on social media, to do a little bit of a sales pitch, if you want to call it that, knowing that that was not the intention of this, but I feel like that's one way I can give back, by giving you the permission to freely say, here's my website, here's how to find me, this is what we do, and then we'll say our goodbyes and close out the session.
Sure. Well, thank you, David. So our website is www.hummingbird-creative.com. You can find the company on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and YouTube. I have a lot of marketing tip videos out on YouTube on the Hummingbird channel. And just search for Hummingbird Creative Group, where ideas fly. Either one of those things, you can probably find us on any of the channels and any of the social media
And I will have a link to your website. So obviously when they come, that'll be in the description on the video, on the podcast, as well as on YouTube. And so obviously once people go to your website, they can find you through the other social channels.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
so obviously I see a lot of your stuff popping up as we're connected on Instagram and LinkedIn, but I appreciate you, Wendy of Hummingbird Creative Group, sharing 25 years, a quarter century, that is right, a quarter century. I gotta like hammer that home as we close out, of an unbelievable journey. So
Yes.
it's been great having you. Have a fantastic day.
You too.